Welcome to What Else is New? I am Kelly Green. Thank you for coming to my show. Today we are going to cover just a few quick things. I've got a closer look with Seth Meyers. He's going to be talking a little bit about oligarchy. Evan Thompson, we have another little bit from him about the police. Over back on the YouTube, I feature a little clip from the Letter Hack show recently with Benjamin Dixon, and they are talking about mobilizing, using the platforms to mobilize folks. We've got some air quality issues regarding the LA fires. We've got that exploding rocket, which is interesting. I'm going to play a quick clip from Eric on the state of the apocalypse. And we're going to talk a little bit about a new $70 billion AI data project for northern Alberta, cooked up by Canada's own OLeary. I don't like that guy, but whatever. Not a big fan of our premier here in Alberta either. And this is an article from the Energy Mix, a Canadian publication. Does fantastic work, climate news that makes a difference. So we'll have links for all that stuff. And lastly, we're going to leave it off with a little bit of Canadian history and Fraggle Rock. Anybody remember Fraggle Rock? I was 12 when that came out, so I was kind of aging out from the kid shows, and it just never really caught on for me. Okay, let's get right to it here.
Although, look.
Of course, he's making reference to Joe Biden's parting speech that he gave from the Oval Office here yesterday or the day before, mentioning oligarchy. And for those paying attention, like Bernie Sanders, this is not a new development. So I thought that would be interesting to share. Evan Thompson, he's out of Alberta and he does a lot of excellent work on the drug scene. What does his thing? Prohibition Politics. Okay, and his website, I think that says Drug Data Decoded. It's a little bit far away. I'll leave a link in the thing. And he's talking about here about police budgets, specifically Halifax being approved for a tank, which the chief described as a ballistic vest with wheels and not as a tank. And then there's a story in the Halifax Examiner by Suzanne Rent, which Evan had originally posted from. I was trying to find her original post with that picture, but it's not there. And this is, I think, by... yeah, it's behind a paywall, so whatever. We're not going to watch that. Next up, we have one of my new favorite YouTubers, the Letter Hack, Matt. Matt is by trade, I believe, a comic book illustrator. And in his hobbies, he's also being able to do it professionally now. He's a lefty. He's a YouTuber. He's a political commentator. He's a influencer. And what he's trying to do with his platform of almost 6,000 followers so far is to not only bring awareness about the issues and bring people together and talk about different perspectives and how to organize and etc. and feature a bunch of different people that are working on these issues, is he's lately come to use portions of his shows as calls to action. So you, the viewers, right? This is a good idea. Do something. Take an action. Write somebody. Write a letter. Make a protest. Sign up to somebody's channel. Share some information. Do some more reading. Do some more research. Talk to a neighbor. Just get active. Do something. Don't just be passive and absorb and watch the world go by, but actually do something. Make a podcast. Shoot a video. All kinds of fun things. So we're going to give a quick listen to Benjamin P. Dixon, and he's talking about the importance of, starting off talking about the importance of you folks in the chat, and that we should not ignore you, and that instead we should engage with you more as content producers and encourage you to take action, because that's actually what you probably want to do. Let's give a listen.
The people in the chats are as important as the people behind the microphone. But if the people behind the microphones don't ever tell them that and mobilize them and show them where to go and show them what they can do, then the people in the chats will be the masses that are scattered. And we have so many people behind microphones who have the opportunity to mobilize their audiences, no matter how big or how small. And so we need the people in the chats to put pressure on us to step up as organizers. We are not the most important people in this equation, but my goodness, are we progressive hosts not sitting on a powder keg of power? All we have to do is get our audiences to move into action and watch how much we can change. So I don't think what you did or said is bad or malevolent at all. I think it's the proper amount of pressure that needs to be applied to every single host that is benefiting from a large audience and benefiting from our contributions, because I'm convinced I'm convinced, but I also need to see. I kind of need to know. I'm convinced that the audience wants to do more than just watch. I think they want to take action.
Do we want to take action? I think so. I'm very interested in taking action. I think a lot of you, all 12 or 20, that might be watching, also interested in a little bit of action. Let's just go back, see what Letterhack says as a follow-up.
I once thought that it would be too, arrogant even to think that our shows could inspire boots on the ground, but somebody's got to.
That's right.
Like, I mean, somebody's got to be inspiring this sort of action.
Yeah, somebody's got to do it. And the Letterhack is doing it. A lot of other people on the left and on the social medias are trying to get people mobilized. And this is especially important for you folks out in the United States with an incoming or a change of administration that is not going to be favorable for progressives and leftists. In Canada, we have a similar situation with a center, likes to paint himself as center-left, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. He's on the way out. There's a leadership race to replace him, and that new leader will become the new Prime Minister for a short period of time because we have an election that will be called probably by March. And most likely, if you read the tea leaves, we're going to get a right-wing government in Canada sucking up to you-know-who. Anyways, enough of that. Let's go back to the fires. Oh, this isn't fire, sorry. This is CO2 in the atmosphere. So this isn't something new. This is something that's been happening for decades, well over a century, getting on a couple centuries now since the Industrial Revolution, when we figured out we could burn coal and generate power through a steam engine. Man, we took off after that. That's awesome. So it's traditionally been measured at Mauna Loa. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Observatory in Hawaii, and they've been doing these measurements probably going back, there you go, since 1958, almost 70 years. Carbon dioxide in the atmosphere increased by 3.58 parts per million in 2024. It's a record increase, partly due to CO2 emissions from fossil fuels, but adding to this were a large number of wildfires fueled by record-smashing global temperatures. And you might remember that last year we sadly found out that the northern boreal forest, which covers much of Canada and much of the rest of the northern hemisphere, Russia and Scandinavian countries, etc., is a net emitter of carbon. So we used to think these vast forests in the northern hemisphere were a sink for carbon, and they were going to keep absorbing carbon, be a little bit of a ticket to keep polluting, if you will. But it turns out that that's not happening. They're drying out, heating up, burning down, and actually contributing to the carbon problem. So, oops. Now, of course, part of that issue is these hotter, drier plants and forests and shrubberies and everything. They have an opportunity to catch fire more quickly. In LA, the situation was just ripe. Last year, they had a massive amount of rain, led to an explosion of plant growth, and then no rain for 10 months. Hot temperatures dried it all out, and then come the Santa Ana winds at 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 miles an hour. You only needed one spark. Didn't matter how it started, power line or cigarette or arson or whatever, space laser, whatever started that fire, it didn't matter because once it was lit, it just, like wildfire, like they say, the wind just took it, and what an immense tragedy that was. So now we have the cleanup with all the toxic ash. Assume the worst, said Sarah Reese from Coast Air Quality Management. When you see that ash, take the precautions needed to protect yourself and protect your health. A long-term concern is that a lot of these toxic gases, or VOCs, volatile organic compounds, will get into homes and linger for months. There are going to be a lot of dangers related to cleanup. LA County banned the use of leaf blowers to avoid stirring toxic fallen ash. Yay! I hate the leaf blowers, even on the best of days. You'd have to be some kind of stupid to use it to clean up ash. It's like using the leaf blowers to clean dust in the spring off our roads and our parking lots. Just a major environmental and health hazard. So, some things you can do is, if you're in the area, if you're near any kind of bad toxic air event, limit your time outside. When you do go out, N95 masks. Never allow ash to touch your skin or eyes. Especially if you're cleaning up, wear a hat, goggles, mask, long sleeves, and pants. Take off your shoes before you re-enter your home. If you have pets, use paw covers. Bathe them often. Inside, tape up any gaps or leaks around the windows. If you have an AC or central fan, run it on recirculate. If you're using an air purifier, look for filters labeled with both HEPA and activated carbon. The activated carbon for the VOCs. A third affordable option is the DIY air purifier. You may have seen these. If not, they're very easy to find and easy to make, providing you can find the right size fan and filter. I recommend grabbing these as soon as possible. Don't wait for a forest fire or heat events to get yourself a good homemade air purifier system going. Corsi Rosenthal box. Ramp up your cleaning. Wet is best. Moisten paper towels or rags to collect dust and then dispose of them in the trash bags, because rinsing, it's only just going to go back into the water supply. Of course, landfilling it, it's also eventually going to end up in the water supply, but in a much slower process. So this is an especially difficult issue for people with disabilities. Rudy Contreras runs South California Resources Services for Independent Living, a nonprofit founded and managed by people with disabilities. We had several individuals contacting us saying their apartments were filled with smoke. The level of smoke that blew into these units, it's stuck on the furniture, now like sludge, infused into these households, and that's what you're breathing in. I'm telling people, you need to go to your healthcare physician immediately. We don't know what you inhaled. One thing he has for clients now is N95 masks. He's kept them in stock by the thousands ever since COVID. But house cleaning, air purifiers, safe transportation, and accessible long-term evacuation options to limit smoke and ash exposure are all daunting. It's barrier after barrier, and there's some depression. People are sad. They're asking, what's next? How do we do this? He says, I don't have all the answers. I don't think anybody has all the answers. They're taking it day by day. An immense tragedy ongoing in and around LA. One of the latest areas to be struck hard by climate change events. Okay, back over to the tabs. Piper wonders if anyone else feels like this is an ominous portent of things to come. This is, I think, a SpaceX rocket or something. Would they call it an unplanned and rapid disassembly? I had commented that it doesn't particularly feel ominous, feels more like part of a running narrative. This phenomenon which I'm detecting here is our nature to hang on to false belief that things aren't exactly that bad right now. It's like a boiling frog, but much more aware. Still cozy in the soup, but starting to cotton on. Solidarity. I don't want Piper to think that, I'm just being a dick, right? I agree, but also disagree. And then I wanted to show you this. I love this lovely little GIF. Wouldn't it be nice if we all had a Millennium Falcon to escape the danger. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Okay, so we got Eric on the state of the apocalypse. Now, the way I understand it, Eric is an anarchist, and I guess this podcast, Live Like the World is Dying, I think is an anarchist production as well. Actually, it is, because they talk about it right off the top of the show. I hope that you follow the link and check that out. Check these guys out. Support them. Support their work. And yeah, let's give a little listen.
How doomed are you feeling? What's your doom scale like these days?
So my whole life, I have felt like, well, if you set your expectations at rock bottom, you'll never be disappointed. So that is long before I knew all the things that I know today. That's where I set, that's where I put my expectations. I put them on the floor until I could dig a sub-basement underneath that. And then that's where I put them.
You put them in the bunker. Your
Yes, they
expectations
are in the bunker where I will be soon.
Yeah.
So I feel as doomed as ever with regards to the climate. I feel extra doomed with regards to fascism, but I'm also I want to be as oblique as possible about this. I am heartened by recent events.
That's somewhat interesting. Interesting that he always had kind of a realistic perspective on things that were happening, and I guess it's come true. Luigi Mangione. Anyways. First Nation demands Alberta halt OLeary's $70 billion data center project. This is a huge and immediate concern for our planet. These AI data centers are exploding in their size and in their need for power. And we are a direct competitor for that. So this scheme up in northern Alberta is to build a standalone data center using off-grid sounds really nice, off-grid natural gas to generate their own power, as well as geothermal. So there's a lot of natural gas reserves up in the northwestern part of Alberta. Giant province, a lot of area. Check it out. And they want to build this center up there. It had great fanfare. The provincial government is all excited about it. Sounds really great. A $70 billion investment into the Alberta economy. That's awesome. Except they forgot to consult properly with those who have treaty rights to the land. A First Nation in northern Alberta is telling the provincial government to cease and desist with plans for a $70 billion AI center. OLeary Ventures is collaborating with the municipal district to develop the data center as part of the Greenview Industrial Gateway in northwest Alberta. Our people are here to remind Mr. OLeary and Greenview of the international treaty, Treaty Number 8, that allows us all to share this land. There is protocol, there are legal requirements, and they are not being followed. So good for them. They're reminding the players that no, they can't just go ahead and do this. There's consultations that need to happen. There's agreements that need to take place. These treaties are between nation and nation, and I believe that they're held up all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada. So have some respect, Mr. OLeary and the government of Alberta. There has been no consultation. The way they act and talk, it's as if our land and water is there for the taking, and we are expected to get in line to receive the so-called environmental benefits. Sounds a little bit like business as usual. The First Nation also raised an alarm about the sovereign wealth funds OLeary said he and Smith had visited to raise $70 billion investment, noting obvious issues with having foreign investors possibly owning an AI data center. They have asked for details on those meetings, but not forthcoming. So I'm going to leave a link for that. Check out the Energy Mix and keep an eye on that story of giant data center in northwestern Alberta and many, many more other giant data centers coming to an area near you, guaranteed, right? They're not they're not doing these sustainably. What I mean is they're not going to be deploying massive amounts of wind or solar or tidal power or what have you. I guess geothermal might be a little bit sustainable and less environmentally impactful. But most of them are counting on natural gas and restarting or building new nuclear reactors to power their designs. All right, well, we're doing good. Coming down to the end of our show. I guess it's going to be a little bit of a short one today. Where are we at? I don't even have a counter. Feels like about 15 or 20 minutes. So I want to leave the show on a funny note, I guess. On this day in 1983, Fraggle Rock debuted, created by Jim Henson. Of course, everybody knows the Muppets and Sesame Street, but not a lot of people, I don't think, outside of Canada know about Fraggle Rock. Of course, the characters look familiar. For his next project, he wanted to do something between Sesame Street and the Dark Crystal. He wanted a show for both children and adults, complex messages and engaging stories. This became Fraggle Rock. He pitched the show to HBO with a bold claim. He told them his new show could end war. With that, they approved it, but he needed a producing partner, so he went to work with the CBC, Canadian Broadcast Corporation. They agreed, opened up their Toronto studios, and their only requirement was that he had to hire Canadian writers and puppeteers, which he did. And I think this was the only human character on the show. There was a strong environmental message to the show, especially in how the Fraggles and Doozers were both needed for their world to be in harmony. I didn't know that about Fraggle Rock. I barely watched it. It came out, like I said, I was 12 when it came out. I wasn't really getting into the kid shows, and it seemed kind of dumb. It was kind of like a slow sort of, I don't know. It just didn't resonate with me. I'm sure there's lots of people out there that are big Fraggle Rock fans. I doubt if I watched an entire episode. So I'm surprised to learn they had a strong environmental message. But at 12 years old, maybe in the half an episode that I did watch, I was able to pick up on that message and have that incorporate into my psyche, which I would eventually use later on. So that's it. That's what else is new. It's a short show. I just wanted to put it out. The weekend is coming. Quick little personal update. I went for a job interview yesterday with the food bank. I was very excited. The interview went well. I was feeling about 50% confident they would call me back for the job. They did call me back this morning, sadly, to tell me that they're going in another direction. Wah, wah. Anyway, the job search continues, and we will just carry on with that. I'll show you what I have, but I don't have the tab handy, and whatever. Who cares? Chances are there's less than 3 of you still watching at this point anyway. Now, not to minimize you 3, I love you, thanks. You probably hit the like and the sub and told your friends and filled up the comments and whatever, and try and help those algorithms understand that people are interested in this. So thanks for coming on the show. I'm Kelly Green. What Else Is New is the name of the show. In the show description, you'll find all the links to all the content that I featured here briefly. And I encourage you to reach out either in the comments or an email or find me on the link tree in one of my socials. Send me a DM, tips on stories to cover, any interesting little things that might be of interest to others, and I will try and put that in the show. That being said, thanks for watching or listening. Good luck with your president down in the States. Bye.